Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another Editing with Eden. I had to go through some old hard drives and it's actually been really fun because I'm finding work from back in like 2016 when I first started my career, which is wild because that was 6 years ago. No, that was 7 years ago, which is crazy. But I found some of my favorite images ever. And obviously the edits on them are incredibly outdated. So I'm going to take you guys through re-editing some of my old OG work, which if you've been around since I shot these photos, you are the best. But I'm going to walk you guys through editing them so that we can just appreciate these photos that I think were great, even though the edits might have been a little iffy. As you can see here, it is a studio session. Shocker to absolutely no one. You guys know that is my absolute jam. So instead of editing with my true to color pack, we are actually going to be editing with the new editorial pack. And I'm still deciding if I want to do the filmy pack or the fresh pack. We might go fresh. Let's go fresh because I very rarely do the fresh pack. I really love it for a cleaner editorial look, but it's pretty rare that I show you guys a session edited with it. So I'm going to start with fresh, higher contrast. And let's go ahead and raise the exposure. My biggest thing with the fresh is that it's supposed to be pretty clean and almost like a lower contrasty and saturated look. So what I want to do, because I'm obsessed with the blue walls in this studio, is just mega bump the blue saturation. That's going to be really important to me on this session specifically. So I'm going to lower the luminance, raise the saturation. I'm going to come to yellows too and raise the luminance a little because I know there's going to be, and make sure the luminance for the green is all at 0 because I just want to make sure we're not losing colors in other places or changing them too much in other places since we're going to tweak the blue so much. So that's probably the only tweak I would make there, is just fixing the blues. Yeah, I feel good about her. I also think, let's zoom in. Let's see how she's looking up close. As you can see, just a very fresh, clean preset, hence the name fresh. Okay, let's move on. Ooh, I didn't start at the beginning. That's on me, coach. Let's start from the beginning. We have this image of the fruit. So let's go ahead and do fresh again. Let's just apply one because this was very even, chill lighting. We're going to probably go with fresh, higher contrast almost constantly. I am going to raise the contrast on these a little bit more. I'm personally, because this was back in my 35 days, which you guys know my opinions on 35s now. We're gonna deep crop her for a bit more of a, little macro shot, if you will. I'm also going to come down to the purples because this macaron was pink purple. And as you guys know, I love keeping my purples more blue because it keeps whites in shirts or wedding dresses looking more true to tone. But if you have an actual purple thing, you're going to have to go fix that. So that's what I would apply there. And for context, this is what plain fresh looks like. It is just very, very muted. Whereas this is what the filmy preset looks like. And it's a little bit cooler. And so we would just need to warm it up a little. So let's go back to higher contrast. And then, like I said, fix that purple. I'm going to put the contrast at that's a little too contrasty. Negative 20. All right, let's come up next into this and let's do the fresh higher contrast again. We are going to raise exposure. I'm going to cool her down just a hair, maybe bring this tint up to 0. I love a little bit more pink in my images. And then again, I'm just going to come here, raise those blues quite a bit because I don't want to lose the blue in that wall because it was absolutely stunning. Let's go ahead and lower it as well. The luminance for the blue, just to keep that really contrasty look. If you wanted this to be even more contrasty, what I would suggest doing is bringing the highlights to 0 and then bringing down the exposure to compensate for that, which would result in something like this. So we've taken it from here to here. Nice, clean, simple. Now we have this image. Let's go ahead and do fresh, higher contrast on here as well. Let's go ahead and raise that exposure. Again, I'm actually going to bring the highlights to 0 just for a little bit more of a contrasty look. And the tint for some reason was naturally very green in these images. I don't know if this was back in the days when I didn't know how to shoot Kelvin, probably, but we're just going to leave her like that. She's a stunner. All right, let's come here. Let's play around with some. I am going to go fresh, higher contrast on this one as well, I think. And again, highlights to 0, bloop, bloop, pop them up. And then this is another image where we're just going to come into the blues, really bump them up, lower the luminance. Let's go ahead and copy this preset. We'll come into this one. Let's paste, Perfect. Honestly, she pasted great. I feel good about her. Let's go ahead and raise exposure just a stop or two. Come into here, do the same thing. I know we already edited this one, but let's see how it looks with the copy pasted. Perfect. Same here. Yum. I love a before and after. And as you can see, again, just glowy, warm, clean, fresh, as the name suggests. Let's go ahead and paste on here as well. We're going to go ahead and bring contrast. Oops, that was too high. A little bit higher. And then I'm also going to go in with the dehaze and raise it just a little because we were working with like a backlighting window situation, and then lower that contrast. Let's crop her in. Stunner. We love it. We love to see it. All right, let's go ahead and get this detail shot. We're going to go ahead and just paste again on there. I am going to come down into the purples. Let's bring them back to 0 again. And then because we have some blue kind of with the plates here, I'm going to bring luminance to 0 again and saturation down just a hair. And then let's go ahead and raise this exposure. Perfect. Nice, clean, fresh. Again, let's paste. Here, the blues are going to look a little too intense. So actually, let's just go back in with fresh, higher contrast. Perfect. She's done. Let's raise the exposure and the contrast just a hair. Go back. Copy from here. We're going to go in with this. All right, I'm going to adjust the temperature just a little bit there. This one actually, let's test her out with a black and white. Ooh. I like her. I like a clean black and white on this. I actually might prefer the more contrasty, which is black and white number 1. Let's raise exposure. Perfect. God, I hate the 35 millimeter. You guys already know this though, but even just looking at these images again, as much as I love them, I'm like, God, I wish I could go back and reshoot that with proper compression, but you live and you learn. All right, now we have a double exposure. Let's go ahead and put fresh, higher contrast on it. We're going to raise exposure. I'm also going to just raise the contrast a little since these naturally get a little bit washed out. We're going to come down to the blue again. Let's lower luminance. Let's really bump up saturation. I don't want that to look too crazy though. Perfect. I am going to make it just a hair more magenta. Perfect. And for this one, again, we're playing around with old images. I'm going to crop in quite a bit, bring this down even tighter in on her face. I'm trying to decide if I want a one eye moment. I do not. Okay. Let's crop her like this. Beautiful. I love her. Let's go ahead and come to this one. We're just going to copy paste. That is delicious. I forgot how much I love these images. Okay, now we're getting started on some of my favorite. So let's go in with fresh harsh light. Perfect. And by that, I mean, it's not yet, but we're going to raise highlights because I don't really want to lose the depth that came with this image. And I'm going to raise the tint a little. Again, we're going to come in with those blues, bring them all the way up because I do not want to lose that blue. We're going to bring that higher, higher, higher. But then we're going to go into purple and just kind of desaturate that because as you can see in her dress, it's a little bit blue down here and I don't really want to introduce too much blue there. We are going to crop this in just a hair. Yum. She's a beauty. Okay. Now we're into some of my favorite images I've ever taken in my career. We're going to go in with fresh harsh light again, but since you guys saw the blues are a bit more desaturated in this preset, I'm going to come back in here and I want to make sure that basically every color is at 0 since it is a double exposure. I'm going to bring highlights to 0 and then let's raise the exposure. I might even bring in a little bit more contrast. I think she needs a little bit more magenta. Let's crop her in. I'm sorry, who is she? The prettiest image I've ever taken. Next, paste. Ooh, yum. I love a double exposure. I'm gonna crop her in quite a bit because again, we're editing these for shits and gigs. These were 7 years ago. And one more for the road. I'm obsessed with the flower on the dress here. The one thing I just forgot that we didn't do was set the purple hues to 0. So let's just go back in and redo that since we did have some purple flowers in here and I want to make sure that everything is as true to color as possible. So let's come back to this image. I'm going to crop her in again because I want the primary focus to be like her and the florals. Yum. All right. that is it for editing with Eden. I'm obsessed with these presets. Obviously, the editorial pack and the True to Color pack are incredibly different, which is why there's 2 packs. The True to Color pack is what I would suggest for a simpler, like more poppy and bold look, and then the editorial pack is what I would suggest for like a more muted, or you have the filmy, which is more of a film look. There's a little bit more of a green undertone, so if you like shooting film and or you like a more muted editorial look, this is the pack I would suggest for that. So I'm super excited we got to edit all of these with the new editorial pack, and I will see you guys next time.